This is Duncan Fowler, and we're going to be talking about research ethics, what it is, and to ensure that you work within the university's research ethics procedures. Then we will look at the process of submitting your own research ethics documentation. All students and researchers who are carrying out research that is internally or externally going to talk to people, interview people, or even do a survey need to get research ethical approval. This is a requirement, something you cannot work around. Therefore, you need to understand what research ethics is and then how to submit your research ethics forms. I've put quite a lot of material on the My Beckett um, web page, so we'll move on talking about this. So, what types of research involve aspects of ethical risk? So when you're dealing with vulnerable people, children, clearly you need to get ethical approval. You don't want to be asking young children inappropriate questions. Similar with sensitive topics, when you're dealing with vulnerable people, young people, or sexual or illegal drugs and stuff. So that involves ethical issues and stuff. Situations where subjects can only be accessed by a gatekeeper. So that might be a guardian. You need to talk to a person in care or a child. You need to go through a teacher or a parent. An element of deception. And basically none of these you should be doing, by the way, but an element of deception where you're sort of um, watching maybe a situation involve and they don't know who you are, why you're watching it, and you're observing from a distance, maybe a gang membership sort of thing. I've seen this proposed through drug research and stuff where they would watch drug people working and stuff. This is clearly very high risk. All of these are high risk, and this is something you will not be doing. Confidential records and stuff. And I doubt you're going to be doing this because I don't think you'll be going anything confidential. You'll be more general questions and stuff. Imposing stress, again, this is more I've seen this done in maybe sports science where they're stressing people like football referees. They put them under stress and then looked at how their decision making is made. So again, this is where you'd need higher ethical approval. Intrusive strategies as well. Again, you're not going to do any of this, but it's important to understand where it is. You might be involved in this with dissertations. So what are the principles of ethical research? So basically four, and they're really quite obvious. Avoid harm to participants. You cannot work around this. When you do your research, you cannot put any participants in danger. You've got to ensure informed consent. This is a big thing for you guys. When you do interviews or surveys, you've got to be able to evidence that they have consented to doing the interview. Just them telling you this is not good enough. You need to be able to evidence this. So when you go onto My Beckett, you should see consent forms. If you do a survey online, it is expected that the first screen would be a screen explaining what your project is, who you are, why you carry out research, and an option to say, look, if you click the next button and start the survey, you are giving consent. But you've got to ensure that you can evidence that that person has given consent. You've got to respect their privacy. So if you interview somebody and they say, yeah, I'm happy to be interviewed, but I do not want my name to be associated to this, then you've got to guarantee that. And you might want to put some information about that person, who, a general description for your report, but it cannot be traceable. So, for example, I was once interviewed, and the person put in their dissertation that it was a male member of staff at Leeds Beckett University who's a principal lecturer who'd been working there for 30 years. Well, as I'm the the only person in that department who'd been working there for 30 years, it was me. So that is not respecting my privacy. And you've got to avoid the use of deception. Yeah, this is where you're trying to gain favor and tell them you're trying to get it, maybe a gang, a drug related thing where you're going to infiltrate a gang, or you're going to put somebody under stress but not tell them, so you can't put them do deception. So avoid harm on participants. Harm can be physical. If confidentiality discretion must be adhered to, anonymity can be difficult to protect. It is hard because you want to explain to the person who's reading your report that the person you've interviewed is worth listening to. They're a person of experience, but if they've asked for anonymity, then you've got to guarantee it. Bureau's research conducts studies which have relevance beyond the vested interest of the research. You can't have any sort of, you can't benefit by this research related, say, for your job. So you see a lot of research where 9 out of 10 cats prefer this food, but the research company will be paid by the company who own the cat food. So it's having a vested interest. Principle of avoiding maleficent. So maleficent is a legal term that refers to an individual intentionally performing an act that is illegal. So you can't do. Ensure informed consent. The aim of the tell them the aim of the research, who will be taking part. So this is when you're doing your consent form or the introduction to your survey. All of this has got to be clear to them. Who is being asked to participate? Who's your cohort? Who's your demographic of people who you're asking? So it's very important you understand who your survey or your interview goes to. And you've got to declare that in your research, so it puts it into context. So for example, if you I had one student who was saying that their design of music magazine, 90% of people said they'd buy it, and you think that's absolutely great. 90% of people this person has asked would buy their magazine. He has 20 people and they're all his friends. So that's not a very good group of people. What kind of information is being sought? So you've got to tell them what you're trying to find out, how much the time. So you've got to be honest with these. I've had students where they've told me, can I interview for 30 minutes? And I'll say yes, but not 45, 50. I don't want it to drag on. If it's 30 minutes, tell me. I can put it in my timetable, and that's great. And you've got to be honest with them. So when they're doing a survey, this survey should normally take 10 minutes to complete. I would recommend for you guys not to be doing more than 10 or 15 questions. The participants in the study is voluntary. You've got to clearly explain to them that they are doing this voluntarily. Who will have access to the data? So this is for you, your supervisor who's marking it. And how are you going to protect the anonymity, and when and how the data will be collected? Privacy Act applies to both facts and opinions related to paper and electronic data as well. Personal data needs to be obtained fairly, lawfully. Personal data need to be accurate. Appropriate security and personal data can be transferred to countries outside the European. So you guys are going to be doing your research within the UK, so you should be okay with that. Avoid the use of deception. More small sins rather than major sins. Sometimes research guilty of this. They want respondents to be candid, but you've got to be honest with them. One common example would be not telling a would-be participant beforehand that an interview will be expected to last for an hour or longer. I've had interviews that I've been told it was going to take 3 hours, so I said no, but at least he told me. Harms reputation of the individual, so you're asking them opinions and it turns out that it's going to affect their job or something like that. So you've got the general idea of what research ethics is. Now you need to complete an online ethics form. So I've given you the website here. There's a link on my Beckett. but it will take you to a standard Leeds Beckett page with a login. Use your normal login and password. Now you need a lot of information before you get to this, and we'll talk about that. It's not something you log in and you start filling in as you're going along. You need to be prepared for this, and let's go through it. So the next thing will be you'll be offered, if you want to do a new application, look at the applications that you've had. I don't think as a student you'll have approved, because I think this is a screenshot from my own login. I get to see the approved, and I'll have a list of students who've requested ethical approval. So you're going to do a new application. If you have submitted your ethics form and it's been rejected and asking for minor modifications, go back to the original and edit the original. Don't submit a completely new one. You'll need to give your project an appropriate name. Please think of an appropriate name. Calling it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or the module title is not the best. The local ethics coordinator, I'll confirm that nearer the time. It does tend to change throughout the years. But typically what happens is it will go to your module leader. They will make an initial decision. If it's rejected, you'll be asked to do a little bit of changes. If it's accepted, it will then go to the faculty's ethics board, and they will normally make a very quick decision. But you cannot do any surveys or interviews until that ethical approval has been granted. If it's after you've been given ethical approval and you do an interview or you do a survey and you change the questions, as long as the questions are not changed dramatically and they're not adding any sort of any of the risks that we've talked about earlier, then you should be good. If in doubt, resubmit. So you'll get a login and password. It's the same university login and password, and then you'll see on my applications a list of ones. So once you've logged in, you have the option to creating a new one, reviewing existing ones. So try and stick with build. Don't submit a new one if it's just needing an edit. So it's a project title, and there's your ethics approval. Then you'll get a statement. This provides details of the process and gives further advice. So please read this before moving on. And then you get a list of questions that are basically yes, no. I think very carefully about these questions, because most of the questions you'll probably be answering no to. So if we once you've answered all of them, I'll have a look at some of those questions. Once you've answered all the questions, you get to put in the date. The date started and the expected completion of the data collection. That is the date of the assignment. Summary of the project. So you need to, before you start this process, you need to know what your project is, have a summary, and have details about it. So these are some of the questions that you're going to be asked. I've not put all of them on there, but there is a list of questions and typical answers to each one of these sections on My Beckett. So before you start logging into this online process, check those answers and make sure that you're ready when you get online and you know what to answer. So the first question: individual, direct or indirect contact with a human. Are you going to do an interview or going to do a survey? Yes. So the answer is 99 times out of 100 is yes. Involve analysis of pre-existing data. So this person said no, but it might be you're doing a little bit of background research and you're looking at data from historical data. So that might be yes. Require permission or consent to conduct? Almost definitely yes. That's why you're going to do a consent form. Require permission to consent to publish? That might be if you're going to interview somebody and normally when you interview somebody, you record it. I would recommend using something like Microsoft Teams, because what it will do is when you record it, it will automatically record the manuscript as well, which you should put word for word in the appendix of your report. But when you've done the recording, it is polite to send the manuscript back to the person you've interviewed and say, this is what you said, are you happy with it? They might read through and say, oh, I didn't really mean this, can you change this? Which is absolutely fine. But you also said that, I'm going to publish it in my report. That should be fine with that. If your report is absolutely amazing and we think, you should be putting this towards a conference and stuff, that is where, you might go back and say, can I publish this at a conference? So yes, you will need permission. Of at risk of compromising confidentiality, that really is up to you. If you're interviewing somebody, there might be a risk. And then you go through all 23 questions and answer yes and no. It will be, most of these are going to be no. This will then give you a risk category 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 is basically you're not talking to anybody, you're not doing anything, you're going to do research in a cupboard somewhere. I would not expect you guys to be getting this is automated generated based on the answers you've just done on 1 to 23. I would expect it to be risk 2. If it's risk 3, then you need to go back and change it because you've misunderstood something. You will not get ethical approval for this assignment if it's risk 3. So go back and sort that out. The next thing it will ask you is for project summary, like I said. So it's start date, expected end date is the assignment hand-in date. Is there any funding? No. Project summary, this is a brief description of your report. So you need to know what your assignment, what you're going to do for your assignment. This is about you, don't just copy from the assignment brief. This is your information. Then this is where a lot of work needs to be done prior to this submission. The next session will ask for project overview, so you can see on the right hand side that I've got the 11 questions and what a typical student would answer. So they've told us about their project, the methodology. So we're talking about the methodology as in, is this quantitative data analysis, is it qualitative data analysis? And that, not the method. A lot of students get mixed up between the method, how you're going to do it, to the methodology, which is how you're going to carry out the research and so. Are there any main ethical considerations? What about the human participants? The recruitment, how are you going to recruit? If you're going to, for example, put your survey on a forum somewhere, you need to ensure that the administrator of that forum gives you permission. So you need to be able to evidence that. Are there any risks, personal data? All of these questions you need to prepare before you start this process off. Then it's a declaration. For all projects, you will complete a declaration. The wording is the same for all declaration. Basically saying you've looked at everything and you're going to work within the university regulations. You're not going to go outside of these. I mean, this is helping you. It's protecting you just as much as it's protecting the people you're going to interview. A survey, make sure you don't do anything wrong. Then we go to the submissions list. So it's a little bit yes, no's, participation information sheet. So you can see on the right hand side, this is an example. A participation information sheet is normally done when you interview somebody. So if you interview somebody, you need to give them an heads up saying, can I interview you next Friday? This is what it's all about. And I've given an example of what that is. And it's normal to give this person the list of questions beforehand. However, it might be that you don't want to do that. You want to have, on the spot answers. But you need to tell them what is going to happen in the interview. It's going to last 30 minutes. The information is for your master's dissertation or master's module, etc. So this person in the example here has said no because they're just going to do a survey. But you would normally be uploading 1 or 2 files. All examples are on my Beckett, but you're virtually there now. And then after you've uploaded the uploaded documents and stuff, so you browse your computer, please make sure you fill the forms in correctly. A lot of students are getting on the forms, and they're very basic. You just overcomplicate it. If there's questions, please ask your module leader. So you will be submitting several documents. If you're doing a survey, then you will be submitting a full list of questions. So you need your questions before you get onto this online system with consent form. So this is normally, if it's an online survey with SurveyMonkey or Google Forms and so, it's normally the first page that a person will be linked to, and it would say, thank you for doing the survey. The survey is for my master's module, and then it would ask them or state certain facts, and it would say at the end, if you consent to doing this, please click the button below to carry on. If you're doing an interview, we'll need a list of the questions and a consent form. And that description as well. Okay, so hopefully you're ready for all this. It is quite complicated. Can take a week or 2 for you to get ethical approval, but it is a requirement. You have to do this, and you will have to do it any time that you do a online. You contact external people or internal people. Thank you.